Well, hello, and here's a video I've been trying to make for a while, and to illustrate the point, I started this video back in October 2017 where I actually uploaded something and kept it unlisted because I thought I'll do a part 2 and a part 3 and I'll just join them up, and thank goodness I didn't, because through general procrastinating and not being in a position to film stuff, I didn't finish this until a little while ago. But what am I talking about? I'm talking about building your very own electric skateboard, or as I call it, an incredibly dangerous death trap. So a little background on this. I watch YouTube, and Casey Neistat is one of the guys I'm subscribed to, along with 10 million other people. So I see him riding around on his E-Skateboard, and for some reason this appeals to me. I should explain, I've never owned a skateboard, I've never ridden a skateboard. I had BMX when I was a kid. But for some reason, the fact you could stand on it and it would make you go, I thought that's cool. And I looked up how much boosted boards were, and I was like, what? That's crazy. It's like, I want to buy a skateboard, not a car. And then I thought, can you build this? People will keep building e-bikes and stuff. Can you build an electric skateboard? And can you do it for cheap? And then I sort of rolled around in my head and thought, can I do something that will be like properly cheap? So hence the title of this. Can we build a DIY electric skateboard for £100? And the answer is vaguely, near. I went a little bit over, but I'll come to explain how we got there. Now, as I said, I was trying to make this video for a while, and it was going to start off as sort of a build log. And then the first part I talked about my pieces, and the second part I was going to start the building, and it's going to progress like that. But it was kind of like trying to film it and make the videos were holding me back doing it. And it's kind of now turned into, you can make an electric skateboard and you don't need any skills. I should explain that as far as building quads and planes go, I'm okay at it. I can solder things together, I can make it look reasonably neat, but I really do lack the finesse about being able to do things tidily and put things together. And where moving parts are concerned, I'm really rubbish. So my attempt at building this has basically involved brute force. So it's like, can you DIY an e-skateboard using a hammer and just hit it until it gives up on you? And bizarrely, the answer is yes. So if you've ever thought about doing this sort of thing, but thought, I don't have the skills, you do. I don't have the skills, and yet I've come up with a skateboard that works and has only slightly killed me once. So let's talk about what I used in the build and some of the problems that I met. And I'm going to flick back to the video that I didn't actually make public. Bizarrely, I'm wearing the same t-shirt. It might be a different t-shirt. My wife keeps buying me replacements when these get worn out, and I don't know the difference. But I wanted to talk about what I used and what was good and what was bad. First off, the board itself. When I looked at longboards, I thought, some of them are like over £100 to start with. I found this one on eBay, 20 quid. No kidding. There's problems with it though. I mean, first off, it's concave, and that doesn't give you as much clearance as you like. Secondly, these wheels are 70mm, and they could be, bigger, which would give you more space again. And the shape of this truck here is a real problem. The fact it's not straight, it's cheap aluminium stuff, so it's using this weird shape to get strength there. So the things I had to buy to do this, and it's pretty simple, you don't need much, you just basically need a little bit of RC skill, and this is why it's on here, because this is all RC stuff, minus FPV. It's like actual person view instead of first person view. But the rest of this, it's all, if you know RC, you'll know how to put this together. What I had to buy is this bit here. This mounts these two gears, and this belt are all part of this kit, and I bought all this stuff aside from the skateboard. Bought all of it from Banggood. It's not a supplied thing for me. I paid for it myself. Other places are available. I'll obviously put the links down below, but shop around, see what you can find. So yeah, that was the sort of main bit that they helpfully did to try and get the motor mount on. The other bits I obviously had to buy is this. This is a 120 amp FVT ESC, which runs 3 to 6S, and this motor, which is a 50/60 size 280 kV, which will run again 3 to 6S. And this comes with its own like on-off switch, and you can hear the fan go up and stuff. In order to run it on 6S, what I had down here are two 5000 milliamp 3S batteries, and I bought this series connector. So basically you turn two 3S 5000 milliamp batteries into one 6S 5000 milliamp batteries. And then you'll notice this little tiny receiver here. This is some, I don't know what the make of it is. This is some tiny receiver I got along with this. It's a car controller. It's actually got a little, this thing's a wheel, but I don't use it. I just needed the fact it had a trigger. So it was nice and small. I could hold it in my hand and just press the trigger when I want to go and use the brake when I want to stop. So that is all in, and you'll notice it's all sort of cobbled together. Now, the big problem I had, and I thought it was going to be a problem, is getting this motor mount, because it is just a 70mm hole which is supposed to slide over this truck in the right place. Because I had to get this far enough along in order to mount the motor and have this gear going to this gear. But in order to get in, there's too much here. So what I decided to do, and this is where the brute force thing comes in, I didn't use a hammer, I used a grinder. I basically tried to grind away some of this metal so I could slide this along and have enough space there to get the motor mount in place. I basically attacked it. It didn't look very good. I broke my grinding wheel, but eventually with this and a sort of a rasp to file things down, I got this mount far enough in so I could actually have it in a decent spot. There was another problem with the wheel though. These wheels have this sort of, they're sunken down, and when I tried to put the gear inside, it wouldn't come out far enough. It was too far in the wheel, so the belt wouldn't have fitted round. So what I had to do is come up with a 3D printed solution, which is basically just a disc thickened out a little bit to push that gear wheel out. And then I had to do the same on the other side. You can see here I've got a 3D printed part here, and then what I did, I bought some, I think this is 3mm threaded rod that I had to then go from one side of the wheel to the other. So basically I used my 3D printed mount as a guide to to freehand drill the holes through. I don't have a drill press, so I was just like, yeah, let's just drill it and try and go as straight as I can. Pushed the rods through, screwed into that end, pushed my mount over the top, and then I could do the nuts up and get that in place. And then I could test that out, and weirdly, that worked. It was, you know, I didn't think it was particularly well lined up. It was all kind of all over the place. But yeah, it went on and it somehow worked. Ready?
Yep. Okay.
Ooh, that braking's vicious. The first time we tested this, we went out, we just had one battery sat on top of the board, just sitting on the board, seeing if it could take us along, and it did, which was the most bizarre thing ever. So from that point I went and I put the series connector in. I came up with some little mounts here to sort of connect the batteries to, so I could put a nice battery strap around them. And this started off just being glued, and now I've got some screws around them, because I should talk about the problems and issues I had. It was kind of reminiscent of my tricopter. When I first built the tricopter, which was the first RC thing I'd ever built, I used to fly it, things used to break, fall off, I'd hit a problem, I'd say, oh, how can I fix that? I'd go back and fix it. I tried again, and I keep hitting the problem and hitting the problem and hitting the problem, and eventually, after fixing them all and coming up with solutions, it all worked. And that was kind of what this was like. I put it together. I you know, mushed it together in some way, and things started falling off. I was like, oh, right, I must fix that. So the initial problem we had was where I'd cut the aluminium to fit that on. Now I was half expecting it all just to break under my weight, because I'd taken away some of the strength there, but that was fine. The problem was, because I'd basically ground it down a little bit roughly, the gaps between where you go in with a grub screw here and around the back were different, so the amount of vibration were able to shake the grub screws free, hence the motor fell off. If you look closely at the motor, you can see it is scraped all the way round, and this is due to the motor coming off. Well, I say it came off, it came loose here and started scraping along the ground, but it was still driving the skateboard fine, and I was going along the road like several hundred yards before I thought, I must investigate that scraping noise, see what it is. And so the motor's all scraped, the mount's all scraped. I mean, that's hit a curb as well, which is one of the scrapes, yet it still works, it's still all fine. I can't believe how robust it is. It's just been tortured. So what I did to fix that, you know, several times I screwed it down again. I already had Loctite in there, and eventually I came up with the idea of, because there was this gap that this grub screw was having a problem with, I shoved a load of epoxy in there. Not to try and hold it, just to try and plug the gap so it didn't have enough room to shake, and that has been fine. That's done about like 10-20 kilometers of me riding around on it, and absolutely no problems. I have had issues. I used sticky pads at first to hold these on, those fell off. This is hot glue, and that is solid. Some of them are epoxy, some are hot glue. You see there's little bits of tape. The batteries, they fell off. Initially I epoxied the printed mounts and then just strapped the battery on. Then one of the batteries fell off, dragged itself along 100 yards, somehow didn't burst into flames, and then I put a couple of screws in the sides. That managed to break, and so I changed the positions of the screws, and that has been fine since. And at this point it's all running really well, bizarrely. So let me talk about one of the problems I had, and this is more about how the ESC works, and this led to it trying to kill me. So the way the ESC works by default is you squeeze the trigger, the skateboard goes forward, you push it away, and it does the brake. The brake by default is extremely strong. Push it forward and the skateboard will come to a very fast halt. You have to be extremely gentle. The problem was with it, again by default, go forward, brake, but if you go to the midpoint it goes to neutral, and then at that point if you press the brake, it's not the brake anymore, it puts it into reverse. At first, when I was riding the skateboard and, you know, having to occasionally jump off and stop, I could just say reverse, the skateboard would come back to me. I felt very clever. The problem was here. I was coming down this hill and I thought, I'm going a little bit too fast for my own comfort level here. Don't forget, I'd never ridden a skateboard. I'm still trying to learn this. And I thought I was just touching the brake, but what I'd done is I'd just gone to neutral first, and then when I hit what I thought was the brake gently, it put the skateboard straight into reverse. I flew off the end of it, and it wasn't a pretty result. I'd scraped up my back. Yep, apologies, that's what my back looks like. It's not a magic eye picture, they're just freckles, don't be afraid. I'd banged my knee up to the point where my wife forced me to go to casualty, and I had to have several x-rays there, but after a couple of days that was fine. Now the problem was with the ESC, you couldn't change the programming on it unless you had a programming tool. There was no, you know, pressing this button and press things certain times. So I had to buy an extra bit for like another few dollars or something, which was this programming chip. Once I got this, I took away reverse. As much fun it was to have it back, I was like, I'm not coming off like that again. So what I did, I calmed down the braking, I put a little bit of drag braking on, the idea being when you go into sort of neutral gear it will slow you slightly. That might still need a little bit of work. I mean, when I put the brakes on full going down a hill, the weight of myself going will not bring me to a complete stop. It comes down to a sensible speed where I could easily get off, but it doesn't bring me to a stop. But on the straight it's a little bit more stopping. So I'm in between what I want to do there in terms of how I want to do it. One of the other problems with the default program is the startup speed was set to very high. So when you started off, as you can see here, it's sort of a bit jerky. It was alright on 3S, but as soon as you went to 6S, basically you wanted to throw you off the end. As soon as it got going, you could go very low throttle and go gently, but the startup was terrible. So we changed the startup to very low. It's still a little bit jerky, but it's more manageable. Now, those of you who are saying you want a VESC, those are the ultimate in a slow startup. Brilliant, but it's the entire price of this project to get one. So if you can afford that, you'll have a great time. But for a budget thing, this is what I got. And it's absolutely fine. You just got to be a little bit careful on startup, but as soon as you start going, it's absolutely good. So I have been having an absolute whale of a time on this thing. It's you know, I'm getting okay. I can stay up. I can go for big rides. The battery lasts for ages. I mean, I don't know if it's because the wheels are smaller than normal and it's not particularly harsh gearing, but I charged up. I went out with my wife went running, so I said I'll go along with you. I just sort of trailed along behind like I was some really weird stalker. And half an hour I came in and I was still on like 12.2 volts. And I go out again and again and again, and occasionally I have to come back and charge. It's like kilometers and hours you can put into it. As far as the speed goes, it's one might think it wouldn't go that fast because the wheels are smaller than a normal board and the gearing is not particularly aggressive and the motor is only 280 kV. It goes faster on full speed that I am comfortable doing. It's frightening. And it's okay if you're on very smooth ground, you sort of feel safe, but again you'll go really fast and that's really frightening. Not all pavements are smooth. Some of them are really horrible to go over. You're like shaky, and it almost deadens your joints because it shakes so much. And you've got to be really careful going between places like that. It will go up small, even dropped curbs. You have to be careful with. Occasionally it's just a little bit higher and the back wheel will get stuck and you go flying off the end, and some of those scrapes on the motor mount were due to that. But it is amazing fun. So we've managed to build this for, I think including this and not including the batteries, about £130, which is not bad going. But if I was going to spend more money, there's a couple of things I would have changed to make my life easier. The board, I would have done my research a little bit better. I mean, I wanted to go cheap, and you know, I didn't think you could buy anything for £20, which even if it's a plank of wood with some wheels, it seems worth more than that. But the wheels were a little bit small, and it made it hard to get the gears in and get the holes drilled. And obviously the trucks, I've seen more expensive boards and they're a nice thin piece of, I don't know what this is, presumably steel, which is the same diameter all the way along. That would be ideal because that would be so easy. You'd literally it'd be a 5-minute job of putting the mount in and, you know, putting these around and you're good to go. Obviously if the wheels were bigger as well, I'd have more clearance here. I wouldn't have the concaved thing, so I wouldn't risk hitting anything. I mean, on a general basis, I don't hit anything. You can see, if I turn it around like that, we've got this much clearance between the wheel and the motor mount. And generally speaking, we're not going over big lumps. It was only going up a larger drop curve that I hit this, and most drop curves are okay. On that one I just get off and poke it up. Yeah, but that would be all I changed, because aside from that I'm absolutely wowed that this thing has been chucked together by me and my complete non-skills, and yet it works and I'm having a great time riding it around. acting like a complete child, but loving it. Absolutely loving it. So if you've ever thought about it, I'd say just give it a go. If I can put it together, anybody can put it together. It's really easy. Just be aware that you're best off reprogramming the ESC so it doesn't try and murder you. Now I've told you all the parts I've used. I've shoved them down as links below. But obviously, like I've said, this is one solution. If you can find the right things that fit the right stuff, then just go for it and put it together, because it's dead easy. And yeah, have fun skateboarding. I hope you go for it as well and have a good fun time. If there was any questions and stuff I skipped over and you didn't get the answer to, please shove them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Until that point, I hope that's been useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.